So hey guys, welcome back to another video to learn how to play At Your Dreams on PSX and what you can do and what you can't do in this game. So today we're actually going to talk a little bit about monster manipulation and how to actually use them effectively. So here's my trusty Balboa, very powerful Battle. This guy is going to come in handy to help me out to teach you stuff. First things first, if you use the lineup menu, you can actually do a lot of stuff in there, and it might really help you to control your monster better. The first thing you might want to do is go into the menu and see that there's two options here: change lineup and change AI. So change lineup actually brings you in this menu, and this menu lets you decide on which side the monster prefers to be. So it's always going to be aiming at being there unless its AI actually tells it something else. But as soon as there's no monster inside, for example, it's going to try to get on that spot as quickly as possible each and every time. And once it's in there, it's never going to move until you do move and then create a distance between you and your monster, and it's going to try to go back to its preferred position. Generally, you want a melee monster on your side, so either left or right. This is your preference. And if you're using a caster monster, you generally want it behind you unless it's really tanky and you want to share the pain with it. It's really important to know that the starting CUNY position is this one, and this is a really bad position, and I'm telling you this because we're gonna talk about monster and traps. Oh, might as well cover it right now. So CUNY's initial position is this, and when you walk with CUNY, it's gonna try to stay in that position. So you see right now it is in the position it's supposed to be. It's not, but then it's gonna move to B, yeah. And when you're actually scouting the floor, let's put ourselves in this position. The number of square you actually walk on is kind of important in this game because there's traps. And you don't want to deal with traps because they are deadly and run-ending. Right now, if I move, I'm gonna be actually scouting 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and so on squares. If I do actually change my lineup to CUNY, or in this case, Bat now, be behind me, well, actually the number of square I'm scouting is divided by 2, so I'm only scouting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 square instead of 10. And the difference is night and day. If there was a trap on any of the squares over one square north, on just up of me, well, I would never trigger any of those. And that's really interesting. Might still trigger a lot of them. I'm not saying it's gonna save your ass, but you might wanna make sure you play the stats here and you play the statistics and make sure that nothing really bad happens. So that's it with actual lineup here. So Badnell is a fighter. We'll put it in melee. All right, now with AI, there's 5 AI. And you wanna mess with them a lot, but not using 5. So 5 is attack aggressively. Attack aggressively makes it so that your monster is absolutely gonna ignore your existence and go fight no matter how. As soon as it's in the same room as an enemy monster, it's gonna go at it, and it's gonna crush it or die trying. This is not necessarily the thing you want to see, because generally fighting with your pet is the best way to go around. And there's another AI to fight in melee, which is attack directly. Your monster is gonna stay at AI 4. It's gonna stay at your side in its preferred position up until there's 1 square difference between it and an enemy monster, and then it's gonna move in that spot, get it, and then start the encounter. It's gonna do the same with 5. It's just gonna run around the room and try to fight everything. So you see. Here, there's 1 square difference. Actually, you have seen my monster turn around and said, okay, I've spotted him. And now it's want to fight. If I skip a turn, it's actually going to be my pet's turn next. And my pet is going to move and get it. So let's show this out. And then we're going to start a new turn. I can move or skip my turn. My pet's going to attack. And we're going to receive XP. This is good, but this is actually bad at the same time. Problem is, my pet is getting it first, and you don't want to see any of this. So let's reset our position here and see that this is the exact same situation. My pet has turned around. Okay, I've spotted you. And the enemy monster is 1 square away. I don't want to give this enemy the first strike. And actually, it's even worse than that. If I want to be in melee with the monster myself, I'm gonna have to move up left, and then the enemy will have actually the choice of hitting me or my pet in the first attack. If I do skip a turn here, my pet is gonna move, but then I won't be in melee. If I want to use mixed magic or participate in any other way, shape or form, then I'm gonna have to put myself in danger. And against a noise, it's not dangerous, but against a killer, that's another story. So you might want to go in lineup and temporarily change your AI. You might have seen this in other videos, but we're going to talk about AI 1. And AI 1 is standby. Your monster is not going to move from this spot. I could go 4 rooms over, this monster is going to stay here. This is the stay command. And it actually do 2 things. Your monster doesn't move anymore, but it also means that it kind of changed AI order. And instead of being you, then your pet, then the enemy monster, it's actually going to be you, then the enemy monster, then your pet. And manipulating that lets you actually get an extra attack in every encounter. We won't be able to show it here because this pet now is going to crush this noise in one hit, but we're going to see the exact opposite situation that we've seen the last time. I'm going to skip a turn, and instead of my monster going in melee, get it and then start encounter, we're going to see my pet's gonna stay there, the enemy's gonna move in, and my pet's gonna get an attack first, and then it's gonna start a new turn. So there we go. So we've actually passed from receiving an extra hit to we give an extra hit. So the difference in movement economy and HP conservation is actually huge. This is what you want to see most of the time. You go back into lineup because now my monster is gonna stay there and not gonna move. It actually only moved once because I tried to enter its square, so it needs to go out of the way. But other than that, it's gonna stay there forever and ever. So you want to go into lineup, change AI, and maybe bring it back to 4 if it was your preferred way, and it's gonna follow around you again. But you're gonna say this, oh, Sand Knight, this is kind of slow. You're actually going into the menu, going into lineup, change AI, blah blah blah. You're right, this is slow. And there are options to make it a little bit faster, and this is definitely something you want to try out. I think I'm gonna talk about it more. Okay, let's talk about it actually. There is shortcuts for your color. So it has nothing to do with the actual monster, it's based on what color you're using. So right now my Balboa is using the red color, you can see it on screen. And the red color is R2. So there we go. By pressing and holding R2, I get a quick access to its HP, its MP. And I have also a little bit of shortcuts on the bottom right. You can see them. So command, back, lineup, and status. So these shortcuts are extremely important. You can use back to, let's say it is in a bad spot and I don't want it to die. Then I could press R2 while holding it, press square. And it's gonna bag my pet, so much quicker than going into menu select Balboa, and then color, which would have bagged it too. So there's that. You can still R2 and press X for status, which is gonna bring this actual thing. Not a big fan of this shortcut, especially considering square can do absolutely the same thing. So it's actually more button presses to get access to that than to actually get access to that here. But then again, it's there. But then we get into interesting setups. If you hold and press and hold R2, you have access to lineup here. So R2 circle really quickly. You don't even see the menu because menus are really responsive in this game. You actually get in here. So you have change AI and change lineup at your fingertip much faster than you would by pressing square and go into lineup each and every time. Especially if your button is not already aligned with monsters AI. So yeah, that's really good. So you can change your lineup, which you probably won't do as much, but then change your AI much more often. If we go into AI 3, you actually want to use AI 3 for doing mixed magic. So mixed magic is really simple. This is your pet is gonna cast a spell on your weapon instead of attacking itself, and once you initiate an attack like a normal hit, this is what happens. So yeah, mixed magic is really powerful. We're going to talk about it more in another video. but that's what you want to see most of the time, and this is really interesting as a setup. It's pretty powerful, but then again, knowing how to manipulate it, you can actually do great stuff using this. One thing you might want to check out is that you can still use lineup, change AI, and AI1. This is not going to make your pet use mixed magic anymore, but then you can skip a turn, let the monster come in, and get hit. If that monster survived its attack, you can go back, press R2, line up, change AI, and bring it back to 3. And then the monster would have get kicked in the face, and then I could still use mixed magic. That attack would have been a mixed magic on the enemy monster. So it's generally called triple attacking because it means that your pet attack, you attack, your pet attack again. But it's not exclusive to physical attacking. You can actually do your pet attack using AI1 and then do a mixed magic, which is only 2 attack, but it still takes 3 turns, and it's stronger generally than just attacking and then maybe attacking 3 times, or it's definitely better than attacking 2 times. So there's an option there. What else can we say? Okay, yeah, we have one AI we haven't touched yet, which is AI2, and let's talk a little bit more about that then. AI2, there we go. So AI2 is the follow command. It's gonna follow you around in its preferred position all the time, but it's not gonna do anything else. So that pet is not gonna attack. It's gonna get hit as much as I don't defend it. And even if I fight, it's not gonna back me up with magic. So this is the follow command. It's interesting in some situation, but generally you want to steer clear from this one. Sometimes your monster is gonna hit a warp trap, and in these situations your monster is gonna be out of your sight. If you are the one who steps on the actual... Okay, just first, I'm pressing R2 right now. I don't have access to my monster AI. I don't have access to any shortcuts. I don't have access to anything, and it makes people think that while your monster is away, you cannot control it, but that is not actually 100% true. If you're the one hitting the monster warp trap, let's say I've hit the warp trap in the room where my monster was, the interesting part of this is I actually know where my monster is, and that might come in handy. If it's your monster that hits the warp trap, you won't know where it end up being, but since you know in which room you were, you might want to use this to your advantage. And one way to use that, and this is something I don't see often and I think is really powerful, you press square, go into the menu, and if you want to line up your monster, you can still actually change its AI. So a lot of people don't know that. If your monster is on AI 3, which most people would use with CUNY, with Mixed Magic Mixed Breed, your monster cannot do mixed magic because you're not there, and it's gonna try to. And so your monster is gonna wander around, and if it gets into a battle, it won't be able to fight back, and this is horrible. So you're gonna see this CUNY's in battle, CUNY's in battle, CUNY's in battle, and you're gonna be like, why isn't CUNY winning? It's not winning because it's still an AI tree and it cannot fight back. And you can actually change that. You can change it to AI 4, in which case your monster is going to start to fight back. And if it's powerful, it might win, but then again, this tower is dangerous. As a team, you and CUNY generally don't want to fight that much, especially in speedrunning setup. So alone, it's going to be worst, and so you might not want to go that way. The actual things I prefer to do, if I'm the one hitting the warp trap, is putting it on standby. And once it's on standby, your monster is not going to move. So let's say I've hit the warp trap and I know that it's in the room just below me because that's where I was when I stepped on the trap. Then I want to get back there as much as possible. The other thing that's interesting is AI1 lets the monster defend itself. So if there's a battle happening before I get back to it, well then it's going to fight back. If you're the one... if your monster is the one who gets to hit the warp trap, then you might want to use AI2. So in AI2, your monster is not going to fight. So if it gets into a problematic situation, it's actually going to try to take as much movement as possible and get it much more. Like, it might still die, and it probably will. but at least it's going to try to run away and just randomly move from room to room until it catches back to you. If you put it on AI 4, once it gets into melee with an enemy monster, it starts gonna fight back and forth. But if it's in a room where you're actually somewhere, it's actually somewhere and then there's enemy spawning, instead of fighting back and forth, it's gonna try to move away, get it, move away, and then start a monster train, and you might end up meeting it again, and that's what you want to do. You want to cover as much distance as you can and make your monster cover as much distance as it can to improve the chances to stumble back on it again while it's still alive. And so AI to follow up is probably the way to go there. So very powerful, very interesting way of seeing when you hit a warp trap or any situation in which you get separated from your monster. Maybe you've thrown it away, or maybe there was a trapped upheaval or something that made it so, or just a weird floor layout that made you pass, but your monster just started to wander off again. Things happen, and that's one way to deal with that. So yeah. Other than that, I think this is gonna cover this section. It has been already a very long video, and I know it, but there's a lot of things to talk about monster. Actually, no, let's talk a little bit more about something else. We've talked about shortcuts pressing R2, but then I haven't touched command, and it is actually a really important one. While holding R2, you can actually change your monster direction, which doesn't affect anything per se, but it actually affects how commands will be played out. So if I press and hold R2 and press triangle, I'm gonna get into this menu. And in this menu, I have a lot of shortcuts, and all these shortcuts are orders I can give to my pet, but these are direct orders, so it's what I want it to do on their next turn. It's not an AI. It's not gonna continue doing any of this after the next turn. It's that turn, I wanted you to do that. Let's say you're here in this situation, you're in melee with that troll, and you want to bail. And you could always go into here, change its lineup so it goes and stays on your left, and then go back here and change AI and do follow me, and then it would actually start to run away with you. But this is long, and so you might want to actually keep its lineup where it is. Maybe you only need to move one square to gain a better height, and by doing command, putting it in the direction you want it to move, and do move, you're actually gonna tell it to move once, and it can actually be chained pretty quickly if you know what you're doing. Just don't mispress like I did just there. So that's a possibility. Also, we've talked about using AI 1 to actually get an extra hit against an enemy monster before battle. This actually can be also done using this strategy. Oh damn, I'm so stupid. There we go, just stay here. Okay, so there we go. The problem with it though is that you need to guess where this monster is going to be. So I'm guessing this Palumpa wants to be in front of Go. So I'm gonna put it diagonally in here, press triangle, and then do direct. And direct is actually attack, direct attack. And if I skip my turn, then it's gonna be my turn, then Palumpa, and then my pet. So in the only two situations in which this is gonna be the turn order if I skip my turn and I actually asked it to directly attack or put it on AI 1. And if I was right, this Palumpa will move in front of Ko and get kicked in the face. If I was wrong, it's gonna move left in melee with a new yell, a Batnell actually, and I'm gonna hit an empty square. So the danger here is you might spend up 1 mana to not deal damage, but there you go. So this would have been the start of the encounter after the kick. So I could have gotten another kick before the enemy actually moves. So there's one way to do this. Also, command are extremely interesting for other thing. If your monster's got 2 spell, like this guy here has Deo Heal and Deo Mirror, if I put it on AI 3, it's always gonna cast the Mixed Magic Deo Heal, which is Wind Cutter. And I might not want to use Wind Cutter all the time. Actually, this monster is made to use Mixed Deo Mirror. And to do that, actually one way to do this, you've seen me do it, but you know, Alt R2, press triangle to go into command, and manually select Mix Duo Mirror. And once I do that, the next thing it's going to do is actually change to Thunderblade. And it may seem like it is slow, and it's true, it's not the fastest, but the menus are so responsive in this game, hi frog, that you actually will end up getting real quick at it if you're good. So you just want to triangle your way to make sure you're facing the right direction, and then you can actually do this, and it's not that long. Realistically, you can get good at it. Also, if it was the last action you've told it to do, you're actually still gonna be there, so you don't even need to input up or down. So you see, you can do this pretty quickly, and Thunderblade is really powerful because it paralyzes 100% of the time, so enemy doesn't survive. That's why you don't see it, but yeah, that's one way to do this. And this earthquake is gonna make me remember to finish this video at some point, but thank you guys for watching. It was a blast, and now you know a lot more on how to manipulate your monster. We're gonna expand on it later on with picking up and stuff like this, but yeah, thank you guys, bye-bye.